All right, everyone. My name is Graham Ayler Sheldon. I will be moderating this panel. We have a star-studded lineup here of folks. Again, if you just joined us, you are at Tips for Freelancers for Overcoming Downturns in Business. We're dancing around the obvious a little bit with that title, but these are very strange times, and we're all in the sort of same place. Everyone on this panel works in a different facet of production. So thank you to the Creative Solutions team for having us. Creative Solutions, if you don't already know, made up of Small HD, Teradek, and of course, Wooden Camera. This is the CS Presents series. There's been a few of these, and they're, I hope, going to continue to be doing more and more. So check back for more scheduling details with that. So we only have about an hour here. So I'm going to jump in, start introing folks here. But if you see at the bottom of your screen, there's a little button that says Q&A. Now, there's so many people on the panel. I feel like we'll probably take questions from the audience as we go versus sort of having a dedicated time at the end, but we'll sort of play that by feel, see how that goes. Okay, let's start with the introduction. So again, my name is Graham Sheldon. I'm moderating. We have a bunch of folks here. I'm going to start with America Young. America works in film, TV, and video games as a director, stunt coordinator, and stuntwoman. To date, she has directed 13 shorts, 4 digital series, 2 episodes of network television, and 2 features. Some credits include work for Star Wars: The Old Republic, that's the video game, Man in the High Castle, True Blood, Science of Mortal Kombat, we worked on that together, and many, many more. Say hello, America.
Hey guys, thank you so much for having me.
Great. We also have Erik Naso. Naso's 30 years of broadcast television experience includes investigative work in Washington, D.C. Today's role in broadcast is as a DP in creative services, not creative solutions, at NBC7 in San Diego. He's been honored with, wait for it, 18 Emmy Awards. I think you just surround yourself with these. A number of National Press Photographers Association awards and a few tellies. He also contributes to Newsshooter.com, reviewing gear and writing articles about shooting and editing. Say hello, Erik.
Hello, everybody. It is an honor to be amongst these great people.
Awesome. Julien Jarry, he's a cinematographer based out of the New York area. He and his team specialize in all aspects of commercial and documentary film production with a passion for and a focus on outdoor sports, conservation, and music. He's been able to travel the world doing what he loves thanks to clients like Sennheiser, OceanX, and Cannondale. His most common role is as DP and colorist. Julien, say hello to everyone out there.
Hey everyone, thanks. Not sure how I got here after the 18 Emmys and all that, but I'm here. Big time. Awesome, thank you.
Well, it is not a competition, Julien. I hope not, at least. Chris Ray resides in Southern California. He's worked to be one of the most respected filmmakers in the skateboarding industry. His love of filming started with skateboarding, but has continued to grow as he expands his experience in the rest of the film industry. He's done a wide range of work with companies like DC Shoes, NFL Films, Ford, GoPro, ESPN, and many more. Beyond action sports, he also works in lifestyle, music videos, commercials, and everything in between. Say hello, Chris.
Hey, thanks for having me.
And then last but not least, we have Jeremy Carey. He's the founder of Ironclad, an East Coast-based film company that creates films, series, and content for brands and outlets. In addition to serving as Ironclad CEO, he directs numerous projects for brands such as Under Armour, Reebok, and the Navy SEAL Foundation. Say hello, Jeremy. Oh, you're muted, Jeremy.
Oh, sorry about that. How you doing,
worries.
everybody? Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Great. Okay, before we get going, we're going to just set just a couple quick ground rules. We're going to keep things positive. We're not going to pretend we're epidemiologists, economists, or scientists. We all work in production. If you are here because you love production, we are the people for that. We're going to be careful on our futuristic projections here. We're going to keep this hyper-focused on our industry, and we're going to make sure we are hopefully hitting you guys with action items that you can all be doing right now. That is the goal. So first of all, we're going to do a digital show of hands, which I think will play at home. Maybe wave me off if it doesn't. But who here is shooting anything right now of all of our panelists?
Ooh, I got a half hand.
10.
Kind of. So America,
Kind of.
Eric, half hand. Chris, yes. Jeremy, yes. Julian, yes. Great. So Jeremy, we were talking a little bit prior to this panel about keeping sets safe. What are some of the protocols that you are doing right now? Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when we can probably all answer this a little bit, but the rules are really kind of blurred right now. And so what we do, because we shoot in so many different locations in different companies and different towns, we kind of take into consideration a couple things. So we first call our legal team and we just say, what are our obligations, right? To keep everyone safe, to keep liability down. And then we call the local, generally the film department. Right now, the film departments don't have a ton of information for us. So we generally call either the fire department or law enforcement agency locally. And we kind of talk about what are the rules, what are the regulations. And if we can, we try to get someone on set from that. So we follow all the CDC guidelines. We monitor everyone's forehead when they first come in, give them gloves, give them masks. And then we go to whatever that township says. And it's kind of an evolving thing. I mean, every week is a little bit different. And it's just one of those things that you try to be in front of as much as possible. And then we assign someone on set to monitor those things.
Yeah. So this on-set person is sort of set safety. Is that their title? Are they a medic? No.
Generally, our producer will do that. They'll do it on a larger scale shoot. We'd have a medic on set. So that will probably fall to local EMT, fire department, or law enforcement. So they're kind of there to monitor things, but our producer is making sure our monitors are wiped down. They're making sure that craft services is clean, individually wrapped lunches, everything, no communal things. And it's really just to protect everyone on set. So our producer generally oversees the sanitation, and then we have local first responder, law enforcement, EMT kind of there monitoring everything for the township.
Understood. So Eric, tossing over to you for a moment. I think everyone sort of assumes that people in news were kind of fine. You know, the pandemic started and you guys just business as usual. And that perhaps isn't the case. So what are some of the things that you're doing right now to continue working in your field?
Well, because I don't shoot news, actually, I mean, I'm a former photojournalist. So I understand that dynamic. It's kind of like it never stops, right? It's always going to happen. But we have had to adjust, just like you're seeing on probably your own local television. Anchors are anchoring from home. There's more like stand-ups being shot at home, or just everything is you're trying to get away from people as much as possible. And it's like the 6-foot rule: put on the mask, wash your hands. It's very typical stuff, but it's a constant, right? I mean, you have to constantly remember to do that stuff. And when they're not driving in the same car, that in news, if you're paired up with a photographer, you're going to meet that photographer on site. So everyone's driving their own vehicle or doing this and that, or boom poles are coming in. There's no putting on, lavalier mics. If they do a lavalier mic, the photojournalist will put the lavalier mic down somewhere and then let the talent grab it and put it on themselves, or even, like people in general, people that are being interviewed. That's kind of like the practice that they're doing right now. We just had a meeting yesterday about what we're going to be doing, because I'm eventually going to be going back to work. I'm not allowed to be at the station right now. The station's like in lockdown. There's only anchors and producers are allowed in the building right now. It's pretty crazy. And it's been like that for 11 weeks. So we're talking about what is our best practices and how are we going to deal with PPE, and we're talking to news and trying to figure this out. Our dynamic obviously is a lot different than news gathering. We're in a situation where this shoot is going to last probably more than 5 minutes, a 5-minute interview. We're going to want to get multiple takes. We bring in lighting. It's not news. This is production with news image. So we're trying to figure out how to do this. And just like you mentioned earlier, it's all about smaller crews. It has to be. You can't have all those people there anymore. You know, maybe a grip is actually now going to turn into someone that's wearing an N95 mask, running around wiping everything down constantly, almost like a you know, someone who's monitoring you know, script, you know, and continuity. That person, we need someone that's doing continuity with wiping everything down and keeping things sanitized for us.
Yeah, and more likely to see hyphens maybe, right? Like grip / gaffer might become a thing again, you know, for better or worse.
In my world, it's small to no crew. I do everything. I do lighting, I do audio. I mean, if I'm lucky to have enough of a shoot that's substantial enough with multiple locations, then I get someone to help me, you know, to help move gear. It's super important. It makes a big difference. It'd be sad to not have that, but what it probably will mean is the shoot will have to be extended, you know, to an extra day. And we just can't do as much in a day like we try to do. Right, that's kind of where we're at, and we're still trying to figure this all out. I mean, me personally, I feel like if I'm going to go back out in the field, I'm going to wear an N95 mask. And, you know, if I have to wear a face shield, I'll wear a face shield and an N95 mask. That protects me from you and you from me a little bit. It's a little bit more of a, you know, closed door situation with that, as opposed to me wearing just the mask and protecting you from me. You know, so we don't know a whole lot about what this situation is really going to be, and we're learning more about it. You know, I'm not pretending to be a doctor, like you said, but also I'm kind of like, I'm not phobic. I'm not a phobic person, but I also, you know, want to make sure that that I'm doing more than what is expected or what they're asking me to do, because I think that's kind of the way I like to work. You know, I like to always try to find, you know, just get a little bit better piece of kit than just, you know, what can get me by, because generally that'll service you better in the future. So I'm adding that to my health plan too when I'm out there in the field.
Sure. I mean, yeah, I think that's a good rule of thumb for all of us. Look at the guidelines and then see what you can do to elevate that for our particular industry, because not all industries are the same. So we have a question here from Elliot DeBrune, and this is going to go to you, Julien, at least to start. Question is, when our skills aren't exactly useful for when we're stuck at home, what other skills related to DOP work specifically can we utilize for gigs when on-set production has seemed to cease completely? Julien, do you want to take that since Elliot called you out specifically?
Yeah, I'm trying to look if that's in the chat.
It's in the Q&A box there at the bottom.
Oh, yes. Okay. Sorry.
I mean, for one, you have a great streaming setup there, which I bet some of your DP skills informed a little.
Yeah, does it pay the bills is the question. Useful stuck at home. I mean, we can have a lot of fun at home, right? There's a lot of people making short films for fun, stuck at home. Could the question be about,
well, what way to expand your social media presence now is a good, move towards education. Maybe, you know, you're not as familiar with, like, I don't know, LEDs or something. Maybe now's the time to step out of your comfort zone in terms of different type of lighting. I think that's where Elliot.
I actually have a question, and maybe this is something that we could talk about. One of the things, when I said I was kind of shooting, is I'm shooting video reference for animation. Because that's exploding right now, because that's the only thing people can do. And I know that there's a lot of lighting and there's a lot of DOPs that work in animation for lighting the scenes. Is expanding your skill set to light and to craft with the light in animation something that someone could work towards, because that's something you can possibly do from your house if you have the right rig. Is that something? I don't know. I'm not a DOP, so
Yeah, well, I'll tell you some stuff that I've been doing. I mean, some things that I did was I absolutely did a handful of things that I've been trying to do for weeks, months, or even years that I just didn't have time for. I was too busy for. So updating the website, updating the reel, shooting something, cleaning, organizing, selling, all that stuff. But super practical things that I've done, and then reaching out to people. I mean, I've got a huge life hack about using LinkedIn to reach out to a marketing manager of companies. I mean, the world is at your fingertips, and it's up to you to reach out and find those people. And if you're sitting at home, don't know what to do, it's up to you guys to, you know, take your work or your reel and reach out to people. And now's the perfect time to do that.
now's the time to optimize, right, Julian? So we can always optimize our equipment, part of our workflow. I know you work in color. I mean, now we have time for that sort of things. I don't know if you agree, but.
Totally. No, I mean, I stumbled upon stuff that I had shot months back that I forgot I shot. And I, put some little short films together. I colored them. I love the colors so much that I made like LUT packs and stuff and want to sell that stuff on the website. So all those things are, for me at least, that's how I work. I have to be creating and putting stuff out, whether it's a picture or a video or,
Sure. Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure, Eric, you deal with so many different types of equipment that now is a good time to be experimenting with the gadget you're not sure is ready for prime time, right? I mean, now, you know what I mean? Before you bring it out and you're sort of on a deadline or something. But before we go back to that, America, I wanted to toss to you here because you're in a similar boat, I think, to some of us, but as a director, stunt coordinator, and actor yourself, I mean, you just mentioned animation, you're working in animation sort of at home here. So what are the other things that you're doing during this sort of strange time we're in?
The animation has been taking up a lot of time, and it's been, when I'm shooting ref for animation, there's no skill involved on my end. It's just pointing at a camera and shooting it. So you don't have to worry about the lighting. Obviously, you don't have to worry about, the only thing you have to worry about is sound. So I usually just have a sound person and that's it. And so that's been keeping me busy because that's something that everyone can do in isolation. But the other thing that I've been doing, a lot of maintenance stuff, all the business crap that I never wanted to deal with that I'm now dealing with, redoing the reels, like you said, the website,
totally.
Tracking down that behind the scenes material that I keep getting asked for that I never have handy. I'm trying to make an organized archive of that. So I have that to send over for, I worked in motion capture, I've worked in stunts, I've worked in directing, I've worked in acting. So having a special file for whatever somebody reaches out for has been really helpful. Organizing my mailing list of people that I want to start updating when there's something to update. And also going through old call sheets because I keep all my call sheets. And this is something I've always meant to do, but never have time for. It's just highlighting the people that I want to stay in contact and that I want to keep in my circle of people that I work with. And so that's the main thing. And then reaching out, just sending emails to everybody that I've worked with 5 years ago, 10 years ago, checking in on people, keeping those relationships up. Like Julien said, we do have the world at our fingertips, but usually we're too busy creating to actually work on the business side of our lives. And so to actually spend time doing the business side of our lives has been great. But on top of that, doing a lot of writing. I've been hired to write 2 scripts. We'll fix 1 script and then write another script, but also trying to anticipate what the stories are going to be like coming out of this. We don't want to do necessarily a pandemic movie. I feel like we've lived it and we don't need to escape into that. But I think one of the themes that we're all struggling with is isolation. And there's so many stories that are about isolation, but in different settings, whether you're a spaceman you're up in space as an astronaut, or whether you're in solitary confinement in a prison. And so taking these things that is now the most global universal experience that we've ever had. Every single one of us has now experienced a pandemic, and that's never happened in our lifetime or even the lifetime previously, that we've all had the same global experience. So taking that universal global experience and finding creative ways to express it, to explore it, and then shoot it in a way that's safe, that we were talking later. So that's what's taking a lot of my brain space.
Very cool. Jeremy, I think I'm going to tackle another question here with your help. So this question is from Nick Donnelly. I get frustrated when my clients see my previous work, but I can't quite deliver that right now. Any advice? What a great question from Nick, right, Jeremy? All of our reels show a certain level of thing that maybe we did with 70 people on our crew or something at one point. So I don't know if you have a take on Nick's question there.
Yeah, I think that people come to you because they want your work, right? They admire that work. So they come to you, and it's up to us as content creators and as leaders in the industry to come up with solutions for people, right? And things that wouldn't fly before will fly now. and it's your opportunity to trust your talent, your skill set, and innovate and present solutions to the people that are looking for these things, and acknowledge that it's a different route. For us, it's really been important for us to get in front of it with major clients who, for instance, if I couldn't travel to a place, generally they want me on set to direct the piece, I'll remote direct it. And that wouldn't have been accepted earlier. That wouldn't have been accepted prior to this. That would have been, no, we'll move to someone else. But if you're coming up with a solution, then you are ahead of the curve with everyone. So now's your time to innovate and to present new things and to do it confidently and to understand that it is a new frontier, and it's go time. It's your opportunity. It's your opportunity to really set yourself ahead and be the advocate and the creative asset to the people you're partnering with. And that goes to your team, to your freelancers, to your clients, and to your family. You're providing and you're making things happen, and you're setting a tone in the industry. So I would look at it as an opportunity rather than a point of a stopping place. I would say, hey, this is our go forward plan, and it will be different, but now's your go time for that.
Great advice, Jeremy. I think, Eric, why don't we bring this one to you? So we have a question here from Max. Now, this relates directly to you because I think of the streaming aspect. We all sort of had to become experts, little mini experts in that very quickly. But Max A asks, the areas of production that I work in have gone completely flat, and I don't see them returning anytime soon. Are there any areas of production thriving right now? I mean, this is a good segue off of sort of Jeremy's point. But Eric, what do you think, what areas of production are thriving right now in your mind?
Well, I mean, obviously streaming. And, that was one of the first things I started doing. I mean, granted, I'm working, but I might not be working, right? And that's the other aspect of it too. You got to think, well, even if you're working now, that doesn't necessarily mean you'll be working in a month from now if you have a full-time job. We can all end up in that other corporate struggle, right? So I'm learning how to do a lot more new things. And streaming is one of them. I was starting to get more familiar with OBS, other devices, how to hook up, just your camera, make it look better, how to light for it better, just all those things. I mean, I think what everybody was pretty much saying is kind of ties into all of that, including just learning how to be a streamer. But if you only do one thing, and this is something that has helped me through my entire career, I think probably my whole life. If you don't just do one thing, you have to do more than one thing now, and have had to do more than one thing for quite a while. If you're just a DP and you just shoot and that's all you do, you're backing yourself up into a corner. You need to start editing video. You need to start working with Photoshop. You need to start learning how to do graphics. There are so many things that I just don't want to do. After Effects is kind of like, that's not part of my brain structure, and I'm forcing myself all the time to get better at it. Good example, like there's a spot we just finished yesterday. I can't shoot. I had an idea. Take the anchors into the weather center, shoot them on the green screen with the studio camera. They can roll on it into the control room. Send me the clips. They're probably going to suck because I know they're not going to be, 422, ProRes files. I'm just going to do it. I'm going to try my hardest to get a clean key to make these promos look different, because in the last 11 weeks, I've been having to deal with, kind of like generic looking, sitting at the desk delivering lines. It's not the same. And I'm trying to mix it up. I'm trying to keep myself valuable, right? I want to make sure that they see, hey, Erik's doing a little bit more than just what he's dealing with, right? Like what he has is at his disposal. So stuff like that, you have to push yourself to learn, and you have to take risks. And when you achieve something, that risk becomes a huge reward, and it'll push you into learning more. So in this time, no matter how old you are and no matter how long you've been doing what you've been doing, learn to do something that intimidates you. Flip the script on yourself. Push yourself to get better at things that you just are afraid of. And when you achieve that, that is huge. It's a huge boost not only to your ego, right? It boosts your ego because it makes you feel better about yourself, gives you pride, makes you feel like you can achieve something. And I think we need that right now. It's tough out there. I feel for all you guys more than me. I'm lucky right now. I have a paycheck. I don't know how long that's going to last, but you guys are all saying kind of the same thing, that, you know, you have to offer more, you have to do more, you have to reach out more. And I think that's kind of the answer.
And Erik, I think you're
Awesome.
also embracing the statement, don't be afraid of the hyphen credit. I mean, if you just look at everyone on this panel, most of us are doing 2, maybe 3. We have 3 official hyphens in our credit, or at least we're running a small business beyond that. So, you know, unions, I hate that idea. I love unions, but in this time, maybe hyphens are something that everyone should be looking at in terms of credits.
Yeah. And also to kind of
Sorry to
piggyback
cut
on
you
that
off
one
there.
more, that's okay. I kind of ramble sometimes. Anything you can think about that is not a person-to-person position. Like I was saying, like working with graphics, doing animations, writing, anything you can do at home that you could sell yourself to someone for. You know, some of the people, I actually did a tweet yesterday because I was kind of curious. I asked blanket statement. You know, obviously on Twitter, I tend to like to hang out with more of the creative types, so it's a good place to hang out. And I asked, I say, how many people have been getting work? You know, how many freelancers are actually getting work? And you know, I'd say like, you know, there's about 80% are saying it's still slow and I haven't got anything. Others are saying, you know, the ones that are saying that they're getting work are editors, colorists, are people that do animation. You could do that
VFX
stuff at home. So yeah, so do this stuff, get it going. Get on lynda.com and take some courses, watch a ton of free videos on YouTube. There's so much free content for education right now.
And
This
just
is
to
the time
jump
to
on
do it.
that, yeah, even if you don't want to do it for career, even if you are a DOP and you don't have any interest in being an editor, learning how to edit will only help you being as a DOP. Learning any other skill, whether you ever tell anyone in the world that you know these other skills, will help you 100% be better at what you want to do. So I love that idea of learning something that's always driven you crazy, because then you also have that common language with the person that you butt heads with a lot. You know, if there's a certain department that you never seem to speak the same language, learn that language. And so that way you guys can only improve each other. That's wonderful.
It introduces the idea of empathy for someone else's job description, because now you know just a little bit of what it means to move that combo stand 20 feet or whatever
Exactly.
it is. Chris, I want to go to you here, Chris, because I have a question here from Amir El Masri. Amir, I hope I'm doing justice to the pronunciation of your name. The question is, I'm a focus puller and I've been to a few shoots lately, and it's been all big productions, but with small crew, right? So I think Amir is saying the scope's big, but the crews are getting smaller. It's been pretty tiring sometimes. And then question for DOPs, is that fair for the crew? So, you know, it's big scope still, but small crew is, I think, what Amir is touching on. And is that fair, right? That we're asking people to maybe do a little bit more work now. Chris, what's your take on that?
I mean, that's obviously, I think you know when you're getting taken advantage of on budgets and things like that. But you know, I'm a firm believer that through all this, your biggest weakness is your biggest strength. And I've always worked with a small crew. You know, starting out filming skateboarding, it's usually you're by yourself. You're the director, you're the DP, you're the editor, you're all those things. And everything that Erik touched on is exactly on point. You know, I was very lucky to do all that stuff because I'm passionate about it. And it's kept me work going through all this because I know how to do those other things. But I do think that as things start to adjust, and I am seeing companies kind of say like, hey, you know, budgets aren't looking good and we can't pay this or that because of COVID. But I think that I'm starting to see more of a trickle in of like, you know, like last Friday I got called for 4 jobs. And if I start to see kind of this offset difference of where it seems normal to everywhere else, but yet this one company isn't normal for them, then you have to kind of take a step back and question it and reevaluate it.
Makes sense to me. So I have another question here that America, I think I'm actually going to go to you for it. So Lee asks, is anybody doing a film that is structured for simultaneous multiple locations, like a film via Zoom? So I want to restructure that a little bit, if you don't mind, Lee. So should we be pitching things that can only be shot in our new normal, right? Again, like VFX only things in space, America, in the cockpit of a 747, the entire film. There's a new movie coming out, Joseph Gordon-Levitt. It looks incredible. That is that. I'm very jealous, of course, all in the cockpit the entire time. So do we pitch things now that can be shot in this new normal, or do we assume everything's going to be fine? We'll be able to do multi-country hopping things soon. What's your take on that from a production standpoint? And I think you're muted too, FY. No worries.
So that is a case in point as to why I'm worried about these one-man crews. Like, I think it's amazing that we do it, but I think crews exist for a reason. And I think every department exists for a reason. Somebody needs to unmute and be recording sound. But I think as long as it serves the story, I don't think that we're going to go full bore production again. And if we have an idea that can be shot well, that's a great story that can be done safely with a small crew, then absolutely I think we should be pitching it. And I've been talking to a couple of people who have called me up or that with amazing ideas of how we can pull this off. And some are really extreme with just the actor with their camera, sending the footage, directing digitally. And then others are a little bit more elaborate examples, but definitely. And my answer is, as long as it serves a story and as long as there is a good story to be with it and it's a safe thing, then why not? Because even if everything goes back 100%, if it's still a great story, it'll still stand on its own 2 feet.
Completely agree. I mean, I think it was Aristotle. I can't believe I'm saying Aristotle on this Zoom, but they came up with unity of time, unity of place, actually very compelling ideas. Put the whole movie on a train in the case of Orient Express, or a single house, or Barry Ryan Reynolds Underground. Maybe now is the time to be doing films like that you're right. That's so key. They can't just be made because of the time we're in. They also have to stand on their own, right? They can't feel gimmicky.
Right.
Anyway, so
but
Andrew,
it is possible. I'm sorry to interrupt, Graham, but,
no
there was a movie called Unfriended that came out a bunch of years ago, and they shot that movie with every actor on their own camera in separate rooms of a house, and then the entire story is played out over the desktop of a computer. And it was actually really clever the way that they did that and executed it. And more movies like that, I mean, they did that obviously way before the pandemic, and it was fascinating, and it was very in-depth, interesting story. So more stories like that I think are absolutely possible. And now technology has even gotten better. So yeah, if you have a cool story like that, absolutely do it.
Very cool. Yeah. And now's the time to embrace those restrictions and work within them. We're always working within restrictions as filmmakers, right? It's either budgetary or something like that. Julien, I have a question for you around social from Andrew Houston. Are there any novel ways of promoting yourself that you developed or adopted in response to the lockdown? Are reps changing the way they handle promotion? I'm thinking this is more geared towards sort of self-promotion. You as a brand, you have a great social presence. Are there some hard and fast rules that you have when working with social right now?
It probably comes more natural to others, but if it doesn't necessarily come natural to you, I encourage everybody to just try, give it a shot. It comes natural to me to be transparent and friendly and confident, and I take that and write a cover letter and send my reel or a recent video I did to a random marketing manager to a company on LinkedIn or a person on Instagram, though that's not my first choice. But I implore you to do that. I heard somebody say yesterday, I mean, the thing about Instagram is, and the thing about everything is, just be you. You know, you're the only one that can be you. Everybody else, if you try to be somebody else, that's not going to work out. And also providing value on Instagram too. So if you just put, one frame on Instagram, even though it looks beautiful, it's a beautiful picture you took or a beautiful frame you captured, let's give some value. People want value. So tell me the story behind that frame. Tell me how you captured it. Tell me how you lit it. People want to learn stuff. They want value. I don't know if that helps, but as far as getting more clients, you've got to reach out to those people in charge,
Yeah. And I mean, I think and look, I mean, you have your own personal bar, I think, for the level of professionalism of the stuff that you put out there, but adding value is so key with social, right? So maybe you swipe right on the image and you have the overall lighting plan for whatever it is. I mean, finding ways to create audience engagement, I think is very key right now. So Erik, This seems like a tailor-made question for you from Lee Rudine. I'm getting lots of requests to use footage shot by employees on their smartphones at home and make something from it. And the question is around, how do you try to increase the quality of what maybe non-shooters are sending you right now? Is there any way you can coach them? Is there anything that you can do, just to get better footage from non-shooters right now?
Great question.
Yeah, actually, that's a great question. And really, that's getting super hands-on with like Skype calling, video chats, sending still images of what it should look like, camera position, just water it down to, more of that kind of consumer mindset. So don't use, terminology that will confuse or intimidate. But there are so many simple solutions. Just find a window, right? Put the camera so the window is behind the camera, and keep it at eye level instead of looking down at your laptop shooting up your nose. It's really doable. And you know what, to be honest with you, right now, the audience is really, really cool about things not looking quite perfect anymore. Right now, they're very patient. They're tolerating it. So if you could just get kind of in the zone, get in the lane, you'll be fine. But you have to coach them. You have to talk to them. Email doesn't work. Get on Skype call, FaceTime. Even like, the cool thing about if you're someone shooting with a phone, before you shoot with them, actually, have them do a FaceTime with you with the phone and in a location and walk around the house and like set up shots. Say, I like that shot. That shot's not good. We won't do that. And then have them do it right there in that position. Stuff like that. You have to get super creative to think about like, what would I have done if I was there? What would I have told you if I was standing in front of you? And the technology that we have just to communicate that way is super easy. I mean, you can do it on your iPhones, your laptop, it's super easy. So that's kind of what I would do. I mean, that's kind of what I did do. Actually, I had to do a promo with how to wear, the proper way to wear a mask. I know it sounds a bit silly, but it's a promo. It's a PSA type promo. And I didn't, we wanted to do stills. I was thinking about shooting video. So I asked my producer, she's a talented, bright person. And so, but there are she's not a photographer, right? So she knows what she likes, but she doesn't know how to get it. She got some great still shots of herself, her wife, their kid, and it looked good. And they all had the mask on, different angles. I said, use portrait mode, because portrait mode looks like a nice shallow depth of field. And I mean, the phones are amazing quality. They are amazing quality when you use them in the right light. All of a sudden, this thing will look very, I hate to say the word cinematic, but you can make these things look very professional. So, but it's all about the light. And that's how I roll. So
yeah.
Can I say something really quick?
Yeah, hop in.
Just super quick. I work part-time for a church. I've done it for years, and I'm getting a ton of WeTransfers right now where they're sending me videos and I'm making edits. And what I did was I actually filmed myself, whether my wife was filming me or I was filming myself. And I actually gave them instructions as I was filming myself. Hey, notice how I'm projecting my voice a little bit more than normal. Notice the frame around, I'm giving myself enough space. So actually we may be able to punch in later. Notice how I'm next to a window and it's not behind me. And so now I've sent that 1-minute instructional video out in a blast email with instructions. How do we transfer it to me? And that's been really helpful.
Oh, that's cool. Julien, I hope you make something like that available for all of us that I can just send people. This is what Julien Jarry says about
Can
production.
I get a copy of that?
Yeah, can we all get copies? Jeremy, you wanted to hop in.
Yeah, one thing on top of that, and to everybody's point, it's very valid. And this question is I'm sure we can all relate to this right now. And in industry, we're calling it UGC, user-generated content. And you're seeing the biggest brands in the world do it. You saw State Farm do a big commercial with it. You see Verizon doing commercials with it. You see everyone moving to this. And we've dealt with some of our largest clients. We're talking about monster budget clients have switched to UGC in a lot of cases. So to their point, to everyone on this panel's point, having that guideline, whether it's through a video or whether it's through a sheet, we make a sheet, we send it out. But we do a location scout with our director, our DP, our producer, digital location scout before we shoot UGC stuff. and we sit down and we get them to walk through their room. We make our lighting diagrams. I mean, we treat it like a production. And that's really, once again, it's bringing a solution to a customer. You're not going to get work unless you fight for work right now. You're just not. So you're really going to have to say, I have a solution for you. This is how we're going to do it. You have to believe in it, and you have to innovate. And but treat it like a production. Take it to another level. And it's not going to come to you. It's just not. You really got to get out there and get it.
That's great advice, Jeremy, and keeping your communications with external clients very positive and not like, oh, you know, things are tough right now, I could maybe make you a video, but just being like, look, we can execute on something that's amazing. Sign up. Quick question for my creative solutions friends out there. Would you gentlemen mind posting some of the educational content that Teradek made around streaming in maybe the chat, because there's a great article that's floating around out there. I think it's very valuable for everyone, especially right now. So Jeremy, I actually want to hop right back to you. The question is demo reels. Now's a great time to be retooling the demo reel. What are some of the things that you think makes a strong demo reel right now?
Yeah, I think for us, you know, we have an in-house team of 15, but we also partner with DPs specifically, right? And editors. I mean, here's the deal, and you can ask anyone on this panel. There are a lot of great people out there. There are a lot of directors just as good as me. And there are a lot of DPs just as good as people on this panel. And it's what else do you have, right? What are you easy to collaborate with? Are you coming up with ideas? Are you have a great attitude? Are you diversified in the way you approach things? And all of those things, to me, yes, I value a reel. It's important. It's very important. But once you're at this level, we're all that good. We can all create that image. You know, it's what else. And when you're the best, the playing field gets a lot different. It's all those little edges. So I do look for diversity in a reel. I look for, are they able to adapt, right? Is there exteriors, interiors, is there narrative versus is there like, I want to see balance, that I know that they're diversified and they can achieve a lot. If it's just one project or one specific style, it's usually, I might try to target those folks for something specific, but it's harder to just bring them on different projects. So diversity is important, but then it's the other stuff. What's the reputation? Who have you worked with? And how easy are you to work with? Are you responsive on that email? Are you collaborative with our budget, right? Like, all these things are important right now more than ever. And it's all about long-term relationship, really. It really is. And that's a big thing. And we do things like on our end, we'll do what we have to do to get in with a client. And I like the people we partner with, DPs or editors, anybody else that are willing to do that with us as well. Work with us to get into things. And I think as artists, sometimes we get in our own way of opportunity. And I think it's very important right now that we collaborate and we just try to be assets for one another, because it will continue to develop as things pick up.
I mean, a lot of great points there, Jeremy. I think that watching out for your network of freelancers right now is also especially key. I mean, you know, we all had our sort of network of, let's say, 40 people that we worked with constantly prior to this. And not all of them are able to come back to set right now, but just checking in with both your clients and with your freelancer network is so key right now. And just, you know, having a plan for that outreach, but not an agenda, right? Because I think that reads, especially with client outreach. Early on, I saw a lot of like stay strong pitches, do you know what I mean? Being sent out to other brands, just like cut together from past work. So I did see a lot of that early on. So this is an interesting question. You know, Chris, I think let's go to you with this, but Amir asks, do you think it's a good time to invest in gear, hoping that when things get back to normal, a lot of jobs will appear? I'm always a little bit nervous about the buying the equipment gets you the job question. You know, that's a little bit debatable, but Chris, why don't you take that? And then Erik, maybe if you have something to add to that after Chris.
So that's a great question. So I'm if anybody that knows me, I'm obsessed with buying gear and always having everything that I possibly can in my production. You know, and before all this happened, I thought to myself that the world wouldn't shut down or couldn't shut down, right? So I always thought to myself, if the company I work for right now went out of business or let go of me, I can get work tomorrow. You know, we all have a good work ethic, but I don't think anybody was prepared for the lights to shut completely off. And you know, I've invested a lot of my money in my gear to invest in my career, but I have a family, I have a mortgage, all those things. So I wasn't necessarily prepared for, you know, work to just stop. Luckily, I've been fortunate, work hasn't stopped for me, but it definitely opened my eyes to be a little bit more cautious of how I spend my money, how I invest in certain gear, what gear is the most valuable to invest in. So I think you have to ask yourself, you know, like I've bought in certain gear because I knew it was going to get me a certain client or a certain job. So I think you just have to evaluate it. I think you have to look at the options of renting gear and just kind of weigh them out, I guess.
Erik, I'm sure you get this question all the time. What's your take on this?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, right, being a writer for Newsshooter, and I'm covering, you know, new releases and a lot of good ones in the last couple of months, actually. And they are, and I kind of have a little bit of a guilt inside of me that I'm doing this, because I feel like I'm projecting the buy mentality. And but I kind of feel like the best advice, I give this to myself, I would give this to anybody, is that if you're going to buy any equipment, make sure that that gear is going towards making money, getting income from that gear. It has to be like let's face it, the streaming thing. It's a great example. You know, Teradek has great products. Go and look if you think that you want to start doing streaming and offer that to maybe your client base that's not been around, and then start getting on the horn and say, hey, I got a whole streaming thing going down. Get a feeler for it. If you're getting some pretty, you know, some little dings and pings from those ideas, it might be worth even just like renting it for a while and see how you can develop that and then buy it. But this is just these times are too dangerous to be throwing down $10,000, $15,000 on something that might not make you any money, and you'll end up losing it because you can't pay for it. The other thing I would recommend also, you know, is renting. If you have a one-off deal, don't think you have to run out and buy it. And also, come on, y'all have friends in the industry that probably, you know, how many people do you know that have cameras and lights and microphones and all this stuff? If you need some gear, give them some money, throw them a bone. I mean, you know, or make a trade deal. You know, hey, I got a killer light kit, and you got a killer camera kit. You know, maybe we can do a trade deal here in the future. Save your money. Think different. This isn't the time to go buy some nice shiny thing, you know, unless it's something for your wife or spouse.
I will say that smartly, if that's a word, if you've had let's just say you've been looking at a lens or a camera system for the last year, and it's a smart decision for you and your career and your business, and you're not going into debt, you have the cash, you have plenty of it, it is a very good time to buy. There's a lot of people that are really, really, really desperate, and there's prices right now that are incredibly good. And I've jumped on a couple, and I don't feel bad about that. And I'm not going crazy. We're not talking about buying a camera to get a job, but we're talking about, hey, I've been looking at this lens that's $2,800 used, and I just grabbed it for $1,400. And that's it because of the climate. And that's happening everywhere. And it might be a good time for you to pick something up if you've been looking for it.
That's true, because I mean, manufacturers obviously are in the same boat as all of us. You know, there's some uncertainty for them as well. Okay, switching gears for a second, America. This is a question from Steve Roberts. I recently filmed an interview and had to fill out a medical questionnaire for the production company before coming to set. Has anyone else had to fill one out? And has anyone been asked to provide COVID-19 insurance? This doesn't seem to be necessarily a specific question that maybe you can answer right now, but the idea behind this is, I think, very key, is what production company responsible for safety? You as a stunt coordinator working very closely with the AD department on features regarding safety, what role in modern production now do production companies, AD departments, stunt coordinators have when it comes to pandemic safety specifically. Do you have any opinion on that? I don't think there's a right or wrong answer here, but.
While technically it doesn't fall under our job description, safety does. And the questionnaire, I haven't had to fill one out, but I have heard of several people who have had to. I've been reading tons of articles about all the different ways that production is moving forward in the rest of the world. And these are very common now. With stunts, there's a lot of hand-to-hand full contact force, and it might be a while till we get back into fights. You might still have stunts of people falling off buildings and being set on fire because it's a little bit less contact. Not much, but a little bit less, and you're covered in goop, so you're a little bit safer. But it is really important. It's really important that the stunt people are vetted, especially if they're going to come in contact with the actors. It's very important that the actors are vetted because they're getting in contact with the stunt people. The production is going to have to take care of their team. That has always been their job, and it should continue to be their job. But the crew members and the cast members are going to have to take responsibility as well, so that they show up in the same way that you wouldn't show up, or probably shouldn't show up drunk to set. You should be quarantining. You should be taking care of yourself offset. You should be taking your temperature, and you should, when tests are even more available, testing yourself regularly so that when you're asked in these questionnaires, you can answer. If you had a temperature that morning, as terrifying as it is to lose the job, you have to admit that you had that temperature. And that's what's going to be so hard is everyone's terrified to lose a job. Nobody wants, especially day of, you don't want to do that to production. Normally, we all show up with a fever of 105 and we're like, we're fine. We can make it through the day. But it's different now, and you can't do that. And so to protect production, it might mean bailing on them the day of. And that's tough. Nobody wants to be known as that person who doesn't show up for work. But
show of hands from the panelists out there. How many of you think we work in an industry where showing up to or calling in sick is even a thing? Yeah. So I don't know what you folks at home could see, but nobody raised their hand. And maybe that is a sort of indicative of a larger cultural problem that we have in entertainment, right? But I think that's probably for another panel. Okay, so I have two.
Graham, can I add one thing to this? Just because I think this is interesting, and it's something for you sort of to think about. There's a gym here in Ramona that's an MMA gym. Yesterday, the owner is going to just open his gym, and he was talking about a rider. Any of his members have to sign a rider saying he's not responsible if you get sick here at his facility. The attorney on the other side said, that ain't gonna fly. It will not float. No matter what they do, legally, you can't, it's just not gonna hold up in court. So remember that, don't rely on laws because people will sue you. But what you do, and I go back to what we were talking about earlier, is that go above and beyond protecting yourself and everyone on the set. If someone's gonna sue you for something that went wrong, you have a great case to say, or to represent, look, we did above and beyond PPE. We were wearing N95 masks. We were wearing gloves. We had someone wiping down the set. I mean, at some point, it might just be considered an act of God that somebody got sick on my set. It's not my fault. I did everything I could possibly do. And I think that's kind of the answer to the question. I don't think signing a document is going to, kind of save you from any issues. You just have to practice amazing sanitation of PPE to protect yourself and everyone on the crew.
Yeah, take care of the humans that are working with and for you, however you possibly can. Okay, back to Chris here for a second. I'm going to do this as sort of a twofold here. While larger productions are limited to what they can do right now, how is your work affected specifically? Do you have a smaller team that can currently shoot? How about other similar sports? And then also follow up, Chris, someone asks, what are you doing to stay creatively motivated? So maybe you can tackle sort of how are things for you right now?
Yeah.
You already said earlier, you kind of already worked with smaller crews. So are things fundamentally that different for you?
Not a whole lot has changed. I've stuck with a smaller crew, and then I've also been very consistent on my crew. So I'm not changing out guys at all. Through all this, skateboarding's actually benefited through it. I mean, businesses and schools being closed right now, that's great for skateboarding. But still, as a filmmaker, and we're still humans, even though these guys are great skateboarders, they can still get sick. And I don't even think they realize that. So when I do go out to a session or I go on set, we're not hugging, high-fiving. And I'm kind of letting these guys know, like, hey, I'm keeping a distance from you. I might film a trick a certain way, so I'm not super close to them. So I'm just being cautious. But it definitely got to the point to where this went on for a while, and I needed the content. And instead of just sitting here stuck in my house, I thought to myself, well, what can I do to get what I need in another way? So it's just like, I need to be smart about it. I need to be smart about the small crew that I'm with, consistent, and just try to be as cautious as possible, you know, wearing a mask, things like that, and always washing my hands. But to stay motivated, you know, this is the first time that I've been home, you know, in the last 15 years for a long period of time. So just being able to be around my family, being able to catch up on everything. For me, it's kind of helped that the world has shut down a little bit, because I'm not getting hit up for a ton of jobs and spreading myself out so thin. So I'm actually able to kind of focus on some stuff right now and give it full energy. So I'm appreciating that a little bit more.
Very, very cool. Okay, so we are nearing the end of our session here. Oh, I wish we could just go for another hour, but I want to go real quick through all the panelists. Try to keep your answers to about 2 sentences for time reasons. Final tip, final message, practical. What can people be doing right now to benefit themselves, their small business, their production? What can they be doing right now? And maybe I'll start, because I don't want to throw that all on you guys right now. Here, be brilliant. You have 5 seconds to think of it. I just, other people have said this, but I guess my tip would be, don't put the pressure on yourself to write the next great American novel. People have been putting that out there, but now's not the time to think, I'm stuck at home. You know, I have to make something incredible. Take this time for yourself, and, you know, come out of this a more positive person is ideally the goal. So America, why don't we go to you next? 2 to 3 sentences. What should people do?
I would think that if you are an independent contractor, I'm seeing someone who's a colorist in the Q&A, reach out to established companies, because a lot of people in post and a lot of established companies are drowning in work because of what's happening. And so if you're a colorist, reach out to post houses that maybe you haven't worked with before, offer up your services, let them know what your resources are. Same thing if you're a still photographer, reach out to the bigger companies, because they're probably short-staffed, honestly.
Great. Erik?
Oh man, just keep your head up. Be strong, lean on your friends and family. You can do this, no matter what, you can do it. And just take small bites at success, because those small bites will be a mouthful when you achieve something. It's gonna be a long run. And also, you know, look outside of your industry and think about maybe some opportunities to make other kind of side hustle. No pyramid schemes, but it's not a bad idea to look at other opportunities while, you know, this sort of plays out. It's going to be a long run, so it's good to still even have a long game, even during this short game.
Very cool. The big takeaway there is think about other things to do on the side, but don't commit any major crimes in the process.
Or if you do, don't get caught.
Yeah, fair enough. Jeremy, let's go to you. Oh, you're muted.
I think the biggest thing is take the time to invest in your process, invest in your skill set, identify the holes, assume that this won't be the last time something like this happens. Identify your vulnerabilities and fortify yourself and your team and your family, and focus on goals right now. Set goals, keep visioning big, and achieve those things. But really, you have to assume that this is not the last time that this will happen. What are the best in the world doing cross industry? What are the Nikes doing? What are the Apples doing? What are everybody else? Take those practices and apply them to you. And that will separate you once momentum picks back up, and it'll set you ahead next time something like this happens.
So well said. I mean, Roger Deakins started a podcast. There you go, right? Yeah. Everybody's in the same boat. Julien, why don't we go to you?
Can you hear me? I'm getting a little cut.
No, I can hear you.
A little static. I'll just throw a curveball. I love what Jeremy just said. It's such a point for a lot of people that didn't necessarily have a savings when this whole thing hit. Was such a wake-up call. So just reassess that whole situation and maybe try not to live above means and stuff like that. Be a little humble. But the curveball for you is be at peace with yourself. And, you know, we can all chase the dream and chase the satisfaction, but at the end of the day, you can't take the money with you, and life is short. And a walk in the woods with your wife or your friends or by yourself and not run in the rat race could potentially give you a lot more satisfaction than anything any of this has to offer. So that's my 2 cents.
Great advice, and probably pertains to other industries too, I hope. Chris, we are going to you.
I would say evaluate every situation. Be patient. I think nowadays with social media, people want to make decisions really fast, real instant. And I think you need to take a step back and realize, you know, we might have been in this for, you know, 2 or 3 months. That's really not that long in our life. So just look at all the things you've had an issue with all this happening, figure out what you don't like about it and how you're going to fix that for next time.
Very cool. Well, panelists, thank you so much. This is a just fascinating conversation, and it was great to have all of you here. We weren't able to answer all of the questions, so sorry about that, but everyone on this panel has a social tag tied to their face in some way. So yeah, feel free to Google everybody. In fact, America, I see you have your @America_Young right there. That was smart. But everybody's available on social. So please follow up with your questions there. So quick call to action here at the end. Please go to cs.inc to sign up for other upcoming webinars. You can be obviously part of the live audience. You can ask Q&A sessions there as well. All sorts of fun content coming up from Creative Solutions. And thank you again to Creative Solutions for making this forum available to all of us. Stay safe and stay healthy out there. Goodbye, everyone.